Hi there, I'm Acting Crimes, or Air, if you prefer.
And I'm El Ninja Cupcake.
And I'm Jay, your DM. And this is Insight Check, where we delve into the dungeon of your bad decisions to retrieve the treasure of wisdom. Yes, that's true. Once again joined by El Ninja Cupcake, the illustrious fourth member of our party.
You're the best Cupcake.
Hey, I'm happy to be had.
Occasionally on the show, we talk about D&D. And this is the segment where we do that dungeon crawl, where we talk about what's new and exciting in Dungeons & Dragons, as well as tabletop. Never forget the important tabletop element of the show. So what's been going on with you guys this week?
I have been trying to get caught up on dice camera action because apparently I have been living under a rock. So I need to know what kind of things I need to be caught up on so I'm not a complete old fart.
Whoa. I don't know if DCA is going to I don't know if it's hip with the kids or anything like that. I think we might be their demographic, so you're in good company there, Cupcake.
Yeah, Air, you also aren't caught up on DCA anymore, are you?
No, I'm a terrible listener and viewer of things. I tend to bounce off stuff a lot. I was in DCA for the first season when they were in Barovia and doing the Strahd thing, and I kind of bounced off it, and they're all lovely people, and they were very charming. I don't know what it was.
To be fair, season 2, in my humble opinion, is a bit of a slow spot. It definitely hit the brakes a bit, really kind of ground to a halt. But I think in season 3, they've really hit their stride. So if you can go watch the Sock Puppet show and jump in at season 3, I think you're going to find yourself having a great time.
Yeah, and I have been told that, and other D&D streams, which I've really enjoyed, like Critical Role, I mean, they had already been playing for 2.5 years before they started streaming their game, so they had all of those kind of inter-party dynamics worked out, and they kind of knew where the characters were, whereas when you have a bunch of folks who aren't, professional voice actors just jumping into RP over Skype, I could definitely see it taking some time to kind of grow into its own thing.
Well, can I say how glad I am that you two have set me up perfectly to talk a little bit about last week's episode of Dice Camera Action. Let me set the stage for you, and I think if I can sell this one episode right, I think I can convert a few of you. Last week, Chris Perkins took the week off, and instead of having a guest DM, they had a guest player who acted as sort of not really a DM, but sort of as a DM surrogate. And it was the four of them talking to a bard turtle about how they met, about their origin stories, and talking to each other about things that they never have time to talk about in the main show. It was literally 2.5 hours of some of the best roleplay that has been on that show ever. It was emotional, it was sincere, it was dramatic, it was funny. It was still roleplay, it was still kind of organic, kind of natural. People were still improvising. It wasn't scripted or anything like that. But there were moments that you could clearly tell that they had prepared for and planned for. There were things that they'd been wanting to put into the show for a long time that they finally got to put in because there was a week break where they were just talking to this turtle, explaining to this turtle who they were. And it was so good. I mean, obviously, if you're a major Dice Camera Action fan, you're going to bawl your eyes out for the whole 2 hours because it's just constant revelations of how these wonderful people came into each other's lives, how they've changed each other's lives, how they've become closer, how they need to continue to become closer, things where they've made mistakes and finally kind of coming to terms with those mistakes with each other. But a lot of it was just really funny, silly characters bouncing off of each other. And it was endearing. Even if you're a brand new viewer, you can get a really in-depth look at each of these characters. You get a dissection of each of these 4 characters right before it heads into the finale. And I really think it was incredibly well done, and they certainly pulled it off. Especially saving right for the last moments of the episodes a huge swing out of left field that nobody saw coming, but was huge for some of the character dynamics on that show.
And they all died.
With that, I hope that you guys feel slightly motivated to check out this episode.
I do. Well, it's interesting to hear a perspective of someone who's deeply caught up with it. Cupcake, from the first, I guess you're kind of early on. Maybe you're still in the whole Barovia.
First season.
Yeah. What is your take from it so far?
So far, I think the dynamics between them I feel like they're still getting going, so getting to see the guys getting involved and getting a little more of the role play, which I'm starting to see more and more. I have to tell you, Anna's doing a great job with Evelyn, because I kind of want to strangle her.
Yeah, she
Yeah.
definitely has the best grasp of her character, and she has the most defined character. I would say her and Strix are pretty evenly well defined. I feel like Paulton and Diaz take a little while to find where their character lies.
Yeah, to catch their stride.
And I think Diaz's main problem is he doesn't know where to fit in the group, like where his place in the group is. Paulton's character is drunkenness for the first season, so
Paulton's the bard, right? And Diaz the rogue?
Yep. Paulton is the bard, Diaz is the rogue.
Diaz, I just kind of assumed he was very serious, and that was just the reason why he was being the way he was.
He's very serious, but I don't know that that's compelling. I think that later on, as he kind of takes on a different role in the group, he becomes a bit more compelling. I'd really recommend to new viewers, watch that 3-season puppet show. Honestly, I know there's a completionist desire in the nerd community where you've just got to watch every second of every episode in order to feel like you've actually invested in it properly. I wouldn't recommend it. I recommend watch the puppet show, get a general idea for what's going on, ask questions in the chat. The community is really sweet on that show. And then just jump into watching newer episodes, because I promise you, the new stuff is where the meat's gonna be. This older stuff, the Barovia stuff is pretty good because Chris Perkins is really good. But the middle stuff, the Storm King's Thunder, I don't know that they ever really latched onto that plot as well as they could have. It was very meandering and kind of slow. But in the latest Chult season, they have killed it every step of the way. You can tell that Chris Perkins is passionate about telling the story of Chult, because he is really going the extra mile to flesh out this landscape. And the players have really found their group dynamic. They have identified where they're good, and they stick to those roles, and they only branch out in ways that are interesting or that advance their characters.
Yeah. I mean, Chris Perkins is amazing. Like, he's the kind of uncle that I want to have that will just come over and read me stories at night. That's what I want.
So my advice as a newcomer, as an outsider wanting to check it out, probably skip ahead. Just jump straight to 3. You're going to miss some stuff, but that's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world. And honestly, if you really love it and you get caught up with the modern stuff, then you can always go back and fill in the gaps. Not that the show was ever truly a slog. I don't mean to be insulting, but there are definitely parts in that second season that are a lot slower than I'd like it to be, a lot more subdued than I'd like it to be.
Gotcha.
Speaking of starting in medias res for my dungeon crawl, if I might get a little personal here for a moment, if you'll forgive me. I returned to the DM's chair for the first time in years over the past weekend, and I was running these fine people, as well as some of our other friends, through a one-shot of my own devising, and I had a monumental amount of good times. It was a lot of fun, and I was trying out a few ideas in terms of storytelling in D&D. I was talking to our dear friend who can't be here tonight, Haley, about kind of my love of 5e and the one thing I wish I could change about D&D in general, and that is that it is based on a binary. And so there's a lot of like what you think would be really cool, like you have these story beats set up and you think it would be really cool if this could happen. And then someone rolls a nat 1, and it doesn't happen. And you're like, well, we'll just kind of let that slide. So I was like, I tried working with these folks to have some rolls that were preset. And rather than having a DC set, it was just that whoever got the highest roll, and they could get advantage, and they could add modifiers through things like guidance or bless or whatnot. Whoever got the highest roll went into Whispers with me, because we're playing online through Roll20, went into a private channel. And I explained to them a little bit about what their check got them, and then asked them for some world building stuff. So Cupcake was the first successful roll, or the second successful roll, I think, and got to choose how the binding bridles around their neck that kind of kept them in servitude, because it was a Suicide Squad-esque espionage mission, how it killed anyone who defied their kind of taskmaster. And she had it instantly desiccate the person, and I was like, oh, that is dark and perfect. So watch out for this one. She might be evil.
No. But that was a really, really cool mechanic. I enjoyed that a lot. I really did not expect it, which was kind of cool.
I hope I didn't take people by surprise, but a lot of the stuff that got decided there, like how best to influence the Dwarven Steward, or how best to deal with the group of drunken soldiers that were kind of haranguing your group and begging you to drink. Like, all of that was decided by other players who I had taken aside and said, okay, so here's the situation. What do you think would be the coolest thing to happen? And then give them the first word when we jump back into the narrative to try to play out whatever cool scene they had in mind.
Oh, that's pretty awesome. I guess it would have been a little less complicated if I could actually talk.
Yes, when you said you were playing a Kenku, I was thinking about that on my commute home today, and I was like, I should have given Cupcake more time, because as a Kenku who's like trying to teach them like these things will desiccate you to death, I was like, we could have just gone like, or something like that, like yeah, exactly. That would have been all you needed to do, and you know, the NPC could have jumped in with like, of course, that's exactly what it's going to do. Allow me to demonstrate on this useless NPC over here. So anyway, thank you for letting me get a little bit personal. I was so happy to be DMing again and telling a story. Thank you for bearing with me.
Oh, it was super fun. I really enjoyed getting to play for once. Getting to actually be behind the table instead of in front of it, so to speak. It's online, whatever. But yeah, and more importantly, I enjoyed getting to annoy everyone with my Clarence voice. Oh boy.
So,
let's go ahead and save the day, guys.
I purposefully didn't give the group knowledge that this was going to be like, you are all essentially convicts, you're all prisoners in a maximum security prison, because I absolutely wanted the least likely party possible, and Jay played a boy detective.
He did.
Okay,
it was
sirs.
priceless.
Okay, sirs, let's solve this crime so I can get out of the pokey.
The pokey.
Oh my god.
Anyway, yes, so
I've been locked away for a hard time. All the coke.
whoa. Cola.
I stole a Coca-Cola.
And now you are doing hard time because of it. Those mandatory minimum sentences in Faerun are friggin' brutal.
Mandatory minimum sentences. God damn it, Hair.
I'm a bad person. Anyway, the last thing I wanted to say is, if we have any members of the C-Team fandom who are listening, I think that makes up some of our user base. I'm hoping to run this one shot for some of the folks out there one day. So, you know, keep that in mind. I might be hitting up your DMs one day.
All right. So then, sometimes on this show, we answer questions.
Oh, right.
And this is one of those times. Weekly question thread 135. That's right, Reddit. We're back to you. This time we're looking at Cashew Thief, who is asking for help. 5e, tips for friendly revenge. I'm a level 3 Arcane Trickster Rogue versus a level 3 Bard. Wanting to plot against a Bard and happy to wait a while before getting him. The Bard is on the typical narcissist route, waiting for some opportune moments to prank him back, so I can only think of switching his instrument with a decoy, using Invisible Mage Hand to mess up his music, and taking Prestidigitation to soil his pants or bed when he's out seducing. First of all, I mean, soiling his pants with Prestidigitation is pretty primo, way better than stealing his instrument.
I mean, who would do that? Stares incredulously at Cupcake.
Okay, so I think what we need to get out here is that Cupcake is a level 5 Arcane Trickster Rogue, and Air may or may not be... Are we 6 now? I think we're 6, right?
We're 6.
Level 6.
Yeah, and Air, of course, plays a Bard. We have come across this as well.
Did anybody... Yeah, was there constant pranking back and forth? Did I hose you down with a decanter of endless water while you were sitting in a tree? Those things might have happened.
Yes, you knocked me out of a tree. And then you smelled like poo.
All those things are true. And then I tried to clean myself with the decanter. It got very Flashdance there for a while.
It did.
And
It did.
And then love blossomed. And then you tried to murder me.
It's kind of been an up and down journey, you know?
It's like grade 3, but with knives. It's very scary. And poison.
Well, it's D&D. Anything's possible.
That girl
Yes,
is
even
poison.
air could be loved.
Oh, man.
Just kidding. I love you, Air. You know it. Okay, so getting back to the point of the question, though. All right, if you're level 3 bard, that means that you have access to level 2 spells. So what we need to do now is classically Dungeons & Dragons. We need to be pulling up our spell lists. Oh, wait, no. This is a level 3 arcane trickster, so they only have got level 1 illusion spells.
And cantrips.
And cantrips. We know they have prestidigitation, so we know that they can make stuff smell bad and also make stuff taste bad.
Yes, so they also have that wicked mage hand.
It's true. That invisible mage hand is huge. I mean, you want to talk about embarrassing? Try pantsing the bard while he's in front of a crowd.
Or steal something and slip it onto him.
It's true. That's less embarrassing, more like incriminating. You might end up with a situation where the bard ends up in jail.
Depends what it is.
It's
he could
true.
steal panties.
Ah, now
And
you're
like
thinking.
have it hanging out of his pocket or something. You can get all kinds of third grade on this.
Is that
can
my
do-
gitch in your pocket, or are you just happy? No, I don't know how this works.
So you're allowed to have illusion magic and which other kind?
Enchantment.
Yes.
Enchantment. Okay, illusion and enchantment up to...
You have to have one of each at least, or 2 of the 3 spells have to be that.
Right. So we're talking about Charm Person, Color Spray, Disguise Self, Silent Image, Sleep, or Tasha's Hideous Laughter. Now there's a nasty one. Color
Yes.
Spray, you can make him blind for a little bit.
I think right around there they get Fairy Fire too.
Okay. Fairy Fire, so that gives you advantage, which is going to help you out with getting some of these abilities off on him. Cantrips, I'm seeing Friends and Minor Illusion are of that school.
So with Minor Illusion, could he like Minor Illusion whoever the bard is after to look like his mom?
That would be more disguised self, I think.
Well, no, it would be like so bard is hitting on barmaid.
Yeah, like you just put like a picture of like all you have to do is put a still image of his mom in the corner just staring at him, right?
Or he kisses the barmaid and pulls back and shit looks like his mom.
Yeah, it's just a still image of his mother just right there. He's just made out with her. Listen, that's getting dark. But I like it. We're on to the psychological
This is some
terrorism.
Oedipal S right now. That we need to rein that back.
Now listen, you get 1 spell of first level of any wizard kind, right?
Right.
All
believe
right.
so.
So we just need to find the perfect first level spell for pranking.
Actually, you know what? I had just had my spell cards out the other day, and there was a really good one. Let me see if it's first level, though.
I think burning hands is always good. Just roast his ass.
There was a dancing one.
Dancing lights?
No.
Oh,
Otto's Irresistible Dance.
It's
Ah.
higher than first, but it is definitely good revenge material.
But you still have Tasha's Hideous Laughter, which is a very similar effect, where you're just going to cause them to start laughing uncontrollably. Do that in the middle of a performance, or maybe in front of the king or queen as you go to do something dramatic.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
You could always do Unseen Servant. You could have the Unseen Servant, and every time that the person plays a song, the Unseen Servant could, I don't know, let's see, maybe throw, just have a bucket of shit and just fling shit at him. Remotely.
Why is it always poop with you people?
Listen, it's gotta be shit. It's important to me. Why are you always bringing me down?
It could be rotten fruit.
It could
Okay,
be.
rotten fruit could be.
It could be. It's always got to be some. There's always some olfactory element that's just rancid. It's dark. It's dark.
Ray of Sickness. That's a good one. A ray of sickening greenish energy lashes out towards a creature within range. Make a ranged spell attack against the target. On a hit, the target takes 2d8 poison damage and must make a Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, it is poisoned until the end of your next turn. To me, that says barf spell.
I'm gonna say I want to make you as sick as you make me.
Oh, that's good stuff. Yeah, I think that there's a lot of ways that you can prank this individual without having to resort to shitting in his bed.
Mage hand, tie his shoes together.
Tie his shoes together. I want to get a little bit darker with it. Message, and you start pretending like if you're like a Kenku and you have the mimicry ability, you use message and you keep doing it in their voice and have their subconscious ostensibly telling them to do terrible things.
And then your bard ends up murdering someone, and now you've got to live with that. Whoops.
The voice inside told me to do it.
As usual, we've gone too far.
Yep.
That is not a thing.
I hope that this helps. Weekly question thread 135. Galactic Exonauts says, I'm thinking of running a character who has been a Revenant for years and has grown relatively accustomed to the condition. You know, as you do, you just get used to being a Revenant. You wake up one day and you're like, you know what, actually I'm okay with this. What are some of the best or most interesting reasons to become a Revenant? Not where I thought that question was going. I thought he was about to go about the ennui of, Revenant life and...
I want Bill Murray Groundhog Day Revenant. I want them to walk up to some super powerful being who's hell-bent on their destruction and just kind of shrug and be like, whatever.
I don't know. Maybe they have a deep love for moisturizers?
I think that a great origin for any character is going to come from a wealth of experience. And now that I've given the boring answer, we can get into some great origin stories for a Revenant. Now, a Revenant, as is defined by the book, is someone who is so motivated by some unfinished business that they return from death to continue their task. But now they have a homing beacon in their head towards whatever their target is, and they must destroy that thing in order to be freed from this hellish existence, this half-life. They've died, they've come back, and now they have a homing beacon towards their target. Now, what if the target is something really abstract, without form? You have a Revenant who's so angry about income inequality. Now he's stuck here for years. He's got to fight systemic income inequality for the next 1,000 years in your fantasy kingdom.
You know what? We could use more of that.
I was going to say, Jay has found a way to take the Crow and make him a social justice warrior. I love this.
So what are some other interesting ideas instead of my bad one?
I think finding his purpose and his end goal, making it something really unique, like he has to bake the perfect cupcake.
What is his beacon guiding him towards then? Like the ultimate flower?
Yes.
Like he just can't get it right. Like he can't get it equally browned, or the icing's never quite right. Just something absolutely bizarre that is a compulsion and he can't figure it out. Like mid-battle is like, oh crap, I don't have the right compote.
I just thought of the exact right sugar.
Right.
What if he was killed because he tasted a cupcake so good, and now he has to make one better, or as good, at least as good. So his like homing beacon is towards this other chef, and he just shows up at that guy's door every day, just lurching, undead creature, just constantly showing up on your doorstep, being like, "Hey, could you tell me your recipe?"
And that, ladies and gentlemen, was the story of Alton Brown.
God damn it.
It's fair. It's fair. He does.
Actually, he kind of has the nose for it.
Oh, getting those deep Alton Brown cuts.
I have mad respect for the guy, but I could see him with his little face pressed up against a window.
I will end you.
Now, if you're going to be a Revenant and you're going to be driven towards an unholy goal, you have to complete it to pass on to another life. A lot of people are going to think, oh, he should have had a family member die. He should have lost his kingdom.
Love story.
He should have a lost love. But what if instead Alton Brown?
I mean, it's the obvious antithesis to, everything else you said.
I think that we have arrived at the correct conclusion to this question. Well, how can we top Undead Revenant Alton Brown trying to steal the recipe of a local neighborhood chef? I don't know how we got here, but I love where we are.
Hey, and the other one could be Gordon Ramsay.
It could be.
Oh, it's raw!
You donut! And we're right back to donuts. Full circle. We did it, people. South 5.
Oh, donuts.
Oh my goodness.
Next question?
Problem. Our dungeon master is 13 and can't see over the screen. No, seriously. He's one of the shortest kids in his grade. and he can't see over the DM screen. The shorty in question... and this is a edit later. He said to clarify this. Edit, the shorty in question is 4'7".
It's gonna make me laugh every time.
I think this sounds like a great reason to buy all the D&D books.
As a booster seat?
Yes.
Let me look that up. Reaches down.
First of all, let's preface this whole question. You're 13. The hormones are going to keep flowing. Things are going to happen. You're going to grow. You're going to be a big man.
You're gonna get there
someday.
champ. Yeah.
And second of all, we are definitely not laughing at anyone. We are definitely laughing with people. You guys posted this question online. You knew the silliness of it. So we're not being mean. That being said, your DM's too short. Trade him in.
I just want to say that, like, I'm not pointing fingers at the DM. He's 13. He's still got time to grow. I want nothing more than for this question to have been posted by a 32-year-old.
How awesome is it that we have a 13-year-old DMing, though?
That's absolutely awesome. And I want this 13-year-old to have, like, these middle-aged men just at their fingertips with good narrative. They're just like, what's he going to do next? His mind is a maze of possibilities. Like, I want this kid to be the Da Vinci of DMs.
Well, here's the great news. The DM screen Reincarnated that just came out is about 2/3 of the size of the original DM screen. So if you haven't upgraded or downgraded to that one, I would recommend it. I was looking at it in the store the other day, covetously, just eyeing it. Like, if I ever play DM in person, I would definitely buy this.
I want to say that the other thing is the DM screen. We could get into that conversation, but maybe let the DM screen go. Roll in front of your players.
Well, could you not make one yourself? Could you not make it almost like with the slit, like you
Listen,
would have
he's
in a prison
13.
Let's
not encourage him to do too much.
There's our cosplayer. DIY this shit.
Yeah, it's true. I like that the first comment on this question is, just cast in large person. I don't see the issue here.
Is the 13-year-old a Durgar? No problem.
The second reply to that is, I'm guessing if you cast in large person, it'd take 4 to 7 years to work. Oh boy, these guys have got it way up there with the comedy factor.
I just flew in from Waterdeep, and now I'm at a 3rd level spell.
I can't take you anywhere.
It's true.
That can be coming and going.
Yeah, I got an attack of opportunity right on the end there.
Sneak attack.
God damn it. Oh, Jesus. All right, so we're just shouting D&D terms. I want to talk about this one because it's an issue that has affected me personally. This is a question that has affected my life, and I want to get the advice out there to the world. Hikuin, the Necromancer, according to their title, says, low level, high AC, frustrated DM. I like the conservation of time there on that title. As a DM, I've run into a bit of a problem. One of my players has a pretty damn high AC at a low level. As a Tortle Cleric, they can have a 19 AC at level 3. While not as absurd as some other combos, I've found that it's damn near impossible to hit this player with attacks. Most creatures that are within fair CR range have a +4 or so at best. While obviously I can attempt to damage them in other ways, saving throws, etc. I don't want it to turn into, okay, cleric, make a dex save every fight. So ultimately I have 2 questions. 1. How do I challenge a party of high AC characters? The other players have good AC too. Cleric is just the highest. 2. At what point/level does AC 19 not nearly guarantee every attack missing?
This guy is the Hemingway of Reddit. Tough, terse prose. I want to go ahead and say up the hit rating on the creatures. Just up it.
That's kind of what I was wondering, but I don't want to give my DM any ideas.
He'll kill us all far more simply than that.
The problem with upping the hit on your enemies is that all the other players then suffer because of it, which isn't super fair to them. This is actually an issue that I dealt with in my last campaign. I had a Oath of Redemption Paladin, a brand new Unearthed Arcana that had just come out. It really fit the character's archetype and his background, and he said, come on, let me try this one out. And I was like, sure, fool, I was a fool. You get 16 plus your dex armor class naturally. But here's the kicker. Added to the paladin spell list is the spell Shield. And all it costs you is a reaction and a first level spell, which paladins by mid-level have plenty of to burn because they're using their third and second level spells for those smites. They don't care about first level spells. They'd rather never take damage ever for the rest of the game. So what you have here is a paladin with 16 armor class, plus an additional 5 for dex, because of course they're maxing that stat out. So now you're talking about 21, plus 5 on top of that for their shield spell. So now you're talking about 26 armor class. And then if you give out any rings of protection, if you give out any gauntlets, they take anything special at all, they're going to keep boosting that until it's just ridiculous. I think that player had a 23 base AC by the end of that game, and a 28 when they used the shield spell. Ancient red dragons had difficulty hitting this guy.
It's like a fucking bubble.
I want to say that, I mean, they seem to be against saving throws, but this is like, you have a character that is an invincible tank, and they're pretty high. If they're early on, there are spells like Crown of Madness, which I think is a second level spell, which allows domination of a character. This is the character you want to take over and have fight the other characters, because they can't hit him either. Turnabout is fair play.
I would say, is there a way to put something into play that does, like, ticking damage? So you have almost like a timed type encounter that you have to defeat such and such before he gets poisoned to death or something.
An enrage mechanic or a dot of some kind. There you go.
Exactly.
You could also just dispel magic on him. Or I actually don't know. Like, depending on if they have any magical elements to their AC, you can just knock that right out.
Well, this is a turtle. Their base AC is probably 15, and then they can do the turtle shell thing where they can retreat into their shell for a bonus +4. Now, that's using their bonus action every round, and it's using their action to escape the shell. So it's actually pretty balanced. The turtle is not too bad because you're basically turning yourself into an immobile target in order to distract from your allies, but you're not really gaining any benefits, and you're losing quite a bit of your action economy to do it. I can't remember, it's 2 bonus actions, like 1 to go in, 1 to come out. I think it's probably 2 bonus actions, not an action, but the point is still there. They're losing the ability to tack off hand or to cast a spell or to do something like that to do this. So there's a trade-off there. And honestly, 19 AC is not the worst in the world. He's just going to be hard to hit for a few levels at a 19. Now, how I solved my armor class problem was to, I'm not gonna say cheat.
But
oh no.
Apply it strongly.
I definitely rolled a little better when I was attacking him than I did my other players. I did maybe have an invisible +2 modifier on attacks against him. You have to be aware of these players and their weaknesses and their strengths. So you got the turtle with 19 armor class. You have a +4 to hit on most of your enemies. That means that with a roll of 15 or above, you're going to hit. That's pretty bad. That's about 30-40% of the time that you're actually hitting your enemies there. You're going to find that you're going to hit way more than, or you're going to miss way more than you hit. And that's just the fact of life. But as you get up to levels 5 and 6 and your enemies start having a +6 modifier, that's going to come way down. And know that you're eating their actions up to make them retreat into their shell. Not only that, but if he retreats into a shell, you can definitely move around him. He's not going to be taking attacks of opportunity from inside of his shell. He's pretty much taking himself out of the fight in order to be safe. You can go attack his allies. Suddenly you're changing the arithmetic in his head. Okay, I can retreat into my shell, but one of my allies is definitely going to get hit. Can I afford that?
If I may, to build on Cupcake's idea, start building battle maps and terrain with really terrible things like lava, and then have a bruiser in that party with a really great carry capacity. They can't make an opposing athletics or acrobatics check against a grapple if they're in their shell. Pick them up, drop them in the lava.
That's a little harsh, but yeah, a terrain effect like that. You just gotta play smarter, not harder. You gotta go ahead and bust out those save or die mechanics. You gotta use those fireballs and things like that do target his weakest stat. Fortunately, yours isn't a paladin who also gets their charisma to their saving throws. God, that guy was hard to kill.
Could you do like a dissonant whisper and be running him off so he spends his whole turn running back every time?
I find it interesting, Cupcake, that you would go to straight to Dissonant Whisper as a way that someone might counteract someone attacking them. I find that very interesting.
You know, I have a little bit of experience.
It's not like someone would do that and then immediately stab you in the back as you ran away, either.
Oh boy.
Oh, air.
Heart, Cupcake. Heart.
Uh-huh.
Can I tell you my favorite thing about the Saiyan race from D&D Wiki?
Yes.
Please.
Okay, my favorite thing about the Saiyan race from the D&D Wiki is the following. So, the Saiyan, of course, they get Flurry of Blows.
Oh, yeah.
They also get Perfect Dodge, where you can spend 1 key point to take the dodge action as a bonus action. So, very monk-like so far.
This is a race?
This is a class.
Oh, it's a class.
Because, you choose to be a Saiyan at a certain point in your life. In your Super Saiyan 3, while in this form, you gain the following benefits. Your strength, constitution, dexterity increased by 6 with no maximum.
And great hair.
Your armor class increases by 3. All of your speeds increase by 30. You gain 20 temporary hit points. You add 1d8 on damage rolls. You can bypass bludgeoning and slashing resistances. You have advantage on strength checks and saving throws, intimidation checks, rolls to avoid or resist the frightened condition. You are vulnerable to psychic damage, and you cannot take the disengage action. You radiate bright light for 5 feet and dim light for another 5 feet, which gives you and creatures within 10 feet of you -10 to stealth checks. That's how they balance it.
You can summon Shenron once a day to have him cast the wish spell.
Hang on, because you're gonna love this.
Of course I am.
As well, in some situations, you gain a level of exhaustion. That's up to you. You just choose when you do that. It's not
Jesus
mandatory.
Christ.
In some situations, you get a level of exhaustion.
Okay, I think we've both proven, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that we're filthy weebs. Let's move on to a question, shall we? Before Cupcake realizes she's made a terrible decision.
And for the last question today, we're going to talk about weekly question thread 134. 5E. My PC says he wants to be a 5'6" mountain dwarf. I told him I would allow it, but there would be some drawbacks. Can you help me think of any drawbacks to being a tall dwarf? Maybe I could make him more prone to disease because of his gigantism. Okay, first of all, more prone to disease?
Tall people are always sick. That's just science.
You remember in those great fantasy epics where they talk about the heart condition that the tall characters have? Really great fantasy adventure there.
I thought the drawbacks would be more social, like if they were to go to a Dwarven enclave, you're going to get, look at this tall motherfucker over here. He's not like us in any way, obviously more scathing than that and not quite as literal. But the accent was pretty good. But something in regards to that, like they would be a social pariah, they would be an outcast, they would have disadvantage on any sort of cha check, like persuasion against other dwarves.
Oh gosh, I would figure they would be really, really clumsy.
Oh, yeah.
Somebody actually did say in the thread, a lower dexterity from being hunched over all the time.
And I would say their stealth would go right out the window.
Oh yeah.
I think my favorite thing about this question is the reaction in the thread where people took this way too seriously. And here's an honest exchange in that thread. Why do they need drawbacks? Some humans in real life are absurdly tall, and they do just fine. And then somebody immediately replies, I can see height giving an advantage mechanically. When you attempt a high jump, for example, or disguise self, letting him look 6'8". I mean, he's still in medium-sized creature range. He's not even left the medium range. If he was talking about being an 8-foot dwarf, we might be talking some shit here. But this guy's asking, can I be a 1 foot taller than average dwarf? And it's well, actually, his jump height would be so much higher.
I want to go ahead and say that this guy has been he was starting to bro it up a bit. He was kind of I think it'd be advantage. He'd have +5 to water polo. He'd be a big tough guy who's...
God.
+5 to water polo would get you very far in life.
It would get you very far in parts of life up until your mid-20s when you have to leave college, yes.
A low intelligence for all the times he smacked his head into stone door frames.
I dig it.
This is the worst thread.
Or like he can never find pants that fit.
Ah, can you lead me to the nearest big and tall?
Or he's the normal-sized dwarf that for some reason thinks he's 5'6" and therefore better than everyone.
I like that Cupcake immediately, like, went to the, like, outer limits, like,
Twilight
Zone. Yes, immediately went to the Twilight Zone response. No, he's normal, and all the other dwarves are wrong.
Imagine, if you will, a dwarf, 1 foot taller than most. Perhaps it sounds strange, or perhaps you've entered the Twilight Zone.
Very
No,
nice.
but that's what I'm saying is he is exactly like all the rest of them, but he's convinced.
He's a dwarf.
He's convinced he's a whole lot of above average.
So he's just a dwarf with a gigantic psychopathy?
He's a dwarf.
Right.
He's a dwarf who, like, personifies the Dunning-Kruger effect. Oh, I'm better than average at everything.
Oh, you need that off the top shelf? I've got it.
Yeah.
And then he just spends 5 minutes scrambling up the counter, desperately trying to reach it without stepping on a step stool.
Failed dex
Yeah, but in
check.
his mind, he just reached up and grabbed it.
He wishes he was a little bit taller. He wishes he was a baller.
Oh, gosh.
Get out of here. You're
This is why
banned.
we keep you.
Is it? It might be also why I'm going to be ostracized and outcast one of these days.
Well, thank you all for listening to another episode of Insight Check. We always appreciate everybody who spends their time with us as we goof off and talk about Dungeons and Dragons, our favorite thing. Of course, we want to thank Amy T. Falcone for the incredible artwork, as well as the amazing Vinswept for our intro and outro song, Never Stand Alone instrumental version. We would appreciate very much if you would like to leave a iTunes comment. We always read the iTunes comments. We love them very much when they come in. And if you would please leave one, it would certainly help the show and help us to continue to grow and spread our love to the four winds. Of course, as well as all of that, I'd like to thank El Ninja Cupcake for joining us for another edition of this show. You are our honorary insight checker. You and Embers together complete this little family, and without you, we wouldn't be able to, first of all, do the show at all, and second of all, we would certainly have a lot less fun at the table. So I appreciate you coming on.
All right, well, thanks for having me.
Anytime. Literally anytime.
Answering your cues from our collective A's
This
was...
Insight.
check.
And they have those, like, big thighs.
Whoa.
They've got dwarf haunch.
Dwarf
Oh my
eye.
goodness.
Oh.
Now we're getting into some dwarf head cannons that I can get behind.
Cupcake likes some real thick and juicy.
Dwarf
know.
haunch. I need to reiterate that she just said dwarf haunch.
Dwarf haunch. It's a premium haunch.